the state's first unicorn, which is a company that is valued over $1 billion. And it was a company called Alchemy. We were the first capital into that company in 2009. And in 2021, Alchemy went public on the NASDAQ at a $3.3 billion market cap.
With a B, folks.
Yes, with a B.
Welcome to the Golden Group Strategic Growth Podcast, featuring expert insights, interviews with thought leaders, and business plan triage. Hosted by Kyle Golding, award-winning entrepreneur, CEO, and Chief Strategic Idealist for the Golden Group.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Strategic Growth Podcast. My name is Kyle Golding. I'm the host. I'm joined today by Rex Smitherman, the president of i2E. Good to see you today, Rex.
Good morning, Kyle.
I almost introduced this as the OVF podcast. We know each other through the Oklahoma Venture Forum, and I host that podcast, and I almost said this is the OVF podcast.
You know, we see each other so much.
Who
knows? Who cares?
So quickly, let everyone know what i2E is. I know it's been around about 25 years, but right before we hit record, we were talking about a very well-established venture capital group who wasn't familiar. So let everyone know what i2E is.
Well, thank you, Kyle, for having me this morning. You know, it's funny. We've been around 25 years. This organization has. We're a not-for-profit organization. We were created in 1998 to specifically help and assist technology-based startup companies in Oklahoma to get their products, services, whatever their technology is, get it to the marketplace and grow these businesses. And we do it by a bunch of different ways, by helping them with their startup, getting a business started, evaluating their product or technology to see if it works, to see if it can actually
make
work.
It, right? Yeah.
And to look at the competition in the market, to look at the size of the markets, to look at whether anyone would buy these products or services, and help those entrepreneurs to understand that and what they're up against, and then prepare them to get investment capital to grow the business.
Right.
That's what we've been doing for 25 years.
And also make investments.
Yes, we do make. In fact, we our organization has i2E, which, by the way, stands for Innovation to Enterprise, a little I to a big E, and to grow these companies. And we have managed 9 investment funds over the last 25 years. We've invested over $93 million. We're almost to $100 million invested into these small startup companies. Man. And we've kind of been doing it behind the scenes for a long time.
Right.
And the conversation we were having beforehand was that, you know, we behind the scenes is a real good description of where we've been for a long time. And a lot of people don't know what or who we are.
Right. And it's very possible, maybe, obviously, majority of the people in the state of Oklahoma aren't starting or running businesses or looking for venture capital or things like that. But the people that are, entrepreneurs, people who start businesses, people who make investment or looking for investment, they absolutely, for probably step one, should be talking to i2E.
Well, at least make reach out or find us, because we can connect them to, if they have a specific need. We're really good at connecting people.
Yeah, it's not just about getting an investment from you. It's about coaching. It's about mentoring. It's about connections, or maybe even just telling someone if it's a good idea or bad idea, and giving them all the things they need to think about when starting a business.
That's right. And we do that through various programs that we've managed over the years. And as I was telling you, we've helped over 800 companies get their products evaluated to the marketplace to help them get that business to the next level.
800 in 24, almost 25 years. That's 30 plus a year.
Well, and when you think about that, it's not every small business. When we were created, our focus was we were looking for technology-based, high growth potential, scalable beyond the borders of Oklahoma or the nation.
Sure.
Those are the kinds of businesses we were basically chartered to help.
Right.
So we've taken this big funnel of small business and honed it way down to a small number and focused on that very narrow group. And so when you think of it that way, yeah, that's a lot of companies that we've worked with over the years to high growth, scalable, technology based startup companies.
So you have a very active portfolio right now.
We do.
How many businesses are in that portfolio?
You know, we are working with between 100 and 125 companies a year that are active, and we don't see them every day, but we touch them at least once or twice a year if they need it. Others we see every week.
Right.
It just depends on what their needs are. Right. And then we have this great ecosystem that is built up here in Oklahoma especially in the last 5 years.
Absolutely, for sure.
That has just blossomed.
Right.
And we have this host of resources out there that we can funnel folks to. So I
would say that business and entrepreneur ecosystem kind of parallels, not putting all the pressure on you, but it parallels the 25 years that i2E, I think when the state put some focus on doing this, and when i2E come into fruition, and then probably the first 10 years were the hardest, and then the last 10 have been easier. And you're right, the last 5 years has been rocket fuel.
Yeah,
right?
It's just exponential almost. Yeah, you know, for I would say almost 12 to 15 years of our first 15 years, we were kind of the only folks doing this. Right. We did a project in Tulsa. We got a grant from the federal EDA to do this project in Tulsa to grow the ecosystem in Tulsa. Mm-hmm. That was in 2012, I guess. And when we looked at, I did a slide for the EDA to post-grant period to show them the before and the after. And before we did this program in Tulsa, there were 4 active entrepreneurial folks in the ecosystem.
Right.
There were 4.
4 players.
4 players. i2E, there was a incubator, and there were a couple of other groups specifically focused. One was on food and the food industry. But when we started the program and we started really working hard for about 2 or 3 years, at the end of the grant, we counted 20 different organizations whose focus was on entrepreneurs.
And now look at Tulsa today.
Oh, Tulsa's just exploded.
Tulsa is amazing today.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place. And Oklahoma City is certainly absolutely there too.
Right.
It's just different.
They are different, right? Similar but different. And I think that's a good thing for our state, is that we have those options and different ways to do different things.
It's got to be. I mean, things are different in Oklahoma City than they are in Tulsa. It's just a different culture, a different place, and your ecosystem, you know, if you're doing it right, it organically grows according to the needs and the culture of the entrepreneurs that are there.
Yeah, culture being the premium word there.
Yeah.
Now, you guys have had hundreds of great success stories, including exits and even a unicorn or 2.
Yes. Well, we've had what we believe is the state's first unicorn, which is a company that is valued over $1 billion. Mm-hmm. And it was a company called Alchemy. We were the first capital into that company in 2009. And we invested using the state's seed capital fund, which is a whole nother podcast, by the way.
And we'll have that soon.
It's a great tool, a wonderful tool. And we invested in that, and in 2021, Alchemy went public on the NASDAQ at a $3.3 billion market cap.
With a B, folks.
Yes, with a B. And I think the state put $500,000 in that.
The ROI on that's fantastic.
It was. And the funds that were returned, the returns when we sold our interest for the state went back into the fund. Right. It goes back into the state's fund, and we've recapitalized. In fact, we've invested $33 million since that fund was established, and i2E is managing that fund. And our investment arm of i2E is Plains Ventures, and it's a subsidiary of the nonprofit. And Plains Ventures manages the seed fund for i2E. And but since 2016, we've put back into the fund over $21 million.
Wow.
We've invested 33, we've put 21 back in, and we've got another 30 or so that's out there under active investment.
So you're supporting the fund, you're using it to invest in more companies and do different things.
Yeah.
And then those companies, those businesses, they are employing people.
Yeah.
They're paying taxes.
Absolutely.
They're paying employment taxes. Their
Absolutely.
employees are
Right.
giving their paycheck and
That's
they're paying
right.
their local taxes. They are working in vendor chains and providing opportunities for other businesses in the area to collaborate with them.
And
it just creates a cycle of success.
and they're creating a buzz that
That too.
is so important to build an ecosystem.
And absolutely dispelling that myth of you can't do that in Oklahoma.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can do it.
Right.
And now we've got such a great infrastructure here that you don't have to wait for someone to help you. There is help out there all the time.
So if this is the first time you've heard about i2E, absolutely go to i2e.org. Lots of great information there. You can see their portfolio, read all about the exits and the unicorn. I know Alchemy from Scott Kozlowski.
Yeah.
So, but a multi-billion-dollar public offering. So you're currently the president. You've been in that role now almost 3 years.
Yeah, about 3 years.
And you've been with i2E for 15,
almost
16
years.
16 years.
Yeah, I've been there since 2008.
And what were you doing before i2E?
Before i2E, I was still in what I like to think is the community development business. I worked for Fannie Mae and doing affordable housing investment in Oklahoma, Texas, and Arkansas. And I really enjoyed that. That was so satisfying. I made some wonderful friends and relationships across the state, working with tribes, working with minority groups to really hone in on where housing was a problem.
Right.
I loved doing that. That was so satisfying to help.
Problem solving.
Yeah, it is a problem.
With real impact on people's lives.
Real impact.
Right.
Yeah. So I was fortunate to be there. It was really a great time because there were things going on. It was Fannie Mae. We invested in the Deep Deuce apartments.
Okay. Yeah.
Back in the late 90s.
Back when there wasn't anything.
Anything, And so those are the opportunities that we had back then, and I really loved doing it. And we did the biggest Native American housing initiative in the country was with the Cherokee Nation here in Oklahoma.
Well, that makes sense.
Back during that time. Yeah. And so there was a lot of it. It was very satisfying.
And you're a OSU guy.
I am. I am unabashed.
Right? You bleed orange, do you?
Yeah. Yes, I'm very much. My wife and I went to college there, and my daughters went to college there, and yeah.
So you have your BS in accounting?
An MBA. Yeah, BS in accounting.
Yes, and MBA.
And an MBA.
So educational background, did some work for the federal government through Fannie Mac, and now doing work for the state at i2E. What even brought you to OSU and that made you decide you wanted your BS in accounting? I really thought I wanted to be a banker. Okay.
I thought I wanted to be a banker.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
I had
a good career choice.
One of my friend's dads was a banker, and he said, well, if you're going to do that, you need to get an accounting degree. So I got my accounting degree, and nothing against accountants.
We need them.
But I just did not want to be an accountant. Or I tried to go to the banking,
right.
and I found early that at that time, banking didn't pay a lot. And
especially when you're young.
Yeah. And so I decided I would go. I went to work for Bell Telephone out of college, Southwestern Bell. Had a great experience with Bell Telephone.
My parents worked for Bell Telephone, probably the same time period. So I understand all about Bell Telephone. That eventually became AT&T. That became Lucent. That did all kinds of right.
Yeah. And I was there for 5 years, I believe. And then I went to work with my father, who had an oil company.
Okay.
And They were starting a new oil company, and he was a geologist, and he had a friend that was a petroleum engineer at ExxonMobil, and he was leaving Exxon, and they were going to start this small oil company in the early 80s. And so I left Bell Telephone in Tulsa. I was in Tulsa at the time. Went to join my dad and an engineer, and then we had a guy that was a fundraiser for the little company, and I was doing the accounting,
Right.
because I was the only guy that
you knew how to do it.
I knew how to do it. So I was the accountant, and we went to work on starting our oil company. And you know what happened about 6 months after we started it was when Penn Square Bank failed.
Okay, the bust happened.
And the bust happened.
Right.
And we had all quit our jobs at the big companies we were working for. And so there were some lean times.
So you've been through it. So you joined a family startup.
Yeah.
So you have that experience, family business, startup business, and then going through a bust and economic downturn.
Yeah.
And at the point where the whole state of Oklahoma was really in our worst state. And that was also the time where this conversation originally started about the diversification of the economy in Oklahoma, right? Because we were so dependent on oil and gas. And when that bust came, the whole state was in real big trouble.
And it was the impetus for a big legislative initiative called the Economic Development Act of 1987,
right?
86, 87. And that created the Oklahoma Seed Capital Fund.
Right.
It was also allowed the state of Oklahoma to take an equity position within a private company.
Would have been radically different at the time.
Oh man, that was way out there. In fact, Kyle, if you look at the chronology, the legislation that created the Seed Capital Fund was in 1987, but it did not get funded until 2007. It took 20 years. It was on the books for 20 years before
someone made the commitment to it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But anyway, that was a rough time, and it was the impetus for all of this diversification and creating OCAST,
right?
Our science and tech agency. A lot of things like that came
OVF
out.
came out at the same time as well, right? Oklahoma Venture Forum was originally spun up as a state agency, organization, program, and it became a standalone to, same thing, diversify the economy of the state of Oklahoma.
And to find investment capital.
And absolutely bring investment capital in, right? Yeah. We want to work with money we have here, but it's essential we bring outside money in as well, right? And attract businesses and things.
That's right.
But like the speed of government, right? It took 40 years to kind of pay off, but here we are today, 2024, and like we've just been saying, the last 5 years has been really magical for the ecosystem in Oklahoma.
It's been wonderful.
And i2E is right there, running with that flag, kind of making sure that people, again, don't say that you can't do that in Oklahoma.
We've done it.
So i2E has a multitude of programs.
We do.
Not just investing, but the E3 program, Bridge 2, Act Tulsa, the OK Bio, and then my favorite, because I get to participate, is the Loves Cup, the Entrepreneur Cup.
Yeah.
And that's expanding now. So it's a college program, but now you're expanding in the high school.
Well, we did a pilot project in a group of high schools in Northeast Oklahoma. It was really cool. We had the folks at the Mid-America Industrial Park up in Pryor, which is northeast of Tulsa, a big industrial park. And part of their charge is to help build a workforce up there for all those companies that are in that industrial park. And they thought that having a competition similar to the collegiate competition for business plan and startup companies would be really something that could get some legs around their companies up there. And so we sat with them and we conjured up this high school version of the Entrepreneurs Cup, sponsored by Loves.
Right.
And we did it last December, and we ended up with 7 teams from local high schools in the Pryor area. And they came up with their own ideas, and It's if you go to our website, you can learn more about it. But it was really fun to do, and we're trying to figure out now what do we've caught the car now. We're the dog that caught the car.
What are you going to do with it?
What do we do now? So we're pretty excited about that. We'll have to see how that turns out.
Right.
And but for colleges, we've been doing it for 20 years. This is our 20th year of doing the Entrepreneurs Cup business plan competition. We just closed the business plan applications, and we had 52 applications this year from colleges and universities across the state.
So we're influencing young people, trying to get them involved and interested and excited about entrepreneurism, about starting a business, how businesses really get funded, and how they're really run, not how it is in the movies, right?
Yes.
And ultimately,
or on Shark Tank.
I was about to say, ultimately, it ends up kind of in a Shark Tank type pitch competition where they've gone through a process, they learn through it, and ultimately they have a real idea of what it takes to operate a business in the real world.
They do.
And capturing some of the best and brightest, and again, keeping them in Oklahoma.
These kids are amazing.
Yeah.
Every year, I've been here almost 16. This will be my 16th competition, and every year I just marvel at these kids as they come out of these universities with these great ideas and lots of energy, and I love it.
So what's your favorite part about being at i2E?
Well, I've said this for a long time, is the best part about being at i2E is that every single day is different. We see a new technology, we see a new twist, we see new entrepreneur, we see a new problem every day. Every day is different. It's and so when you wake up and come to work, you go, wow, I wonder what I'm going to find today.
Right?
Yeah,
that's exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's what brings everybody to i2E, is this idea of there's always something new going on.
You have an amazing team over there.
Yeah, we do. We're real fortunate to have a great team that these are smart people. They have such varied backgrounds and educational backgrounds. And so, yeah, we're real fortunate.
And a few people that we've stolen from some big players in the industry around the country, and some people with some really impressive resumes.
Yeah, we've got, and on our investment team, which we've been building the last few years, we've got guys from Goldman Sachs.
Right.
We've got a PhD neuroscientist, a gentleman that Justin Wilson, who runs our investment side.
Right.
And
he was doing work in Washington.
Yeah, and he came from Washington.
Right.
In fact, I think you did a podcast with Justin.
Yeah.
They need to see that. That's a great podcast.
Yeah.
We need to push that. And we've got a gentleman that came from a major pharma company that was doing FDA regulatory work, and so he knows that space really well.
And that's an industry that's really blooming and blossoming in Oklahoma.
And focused.
And will be part of the future for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Biotech is really, really big, and we've got a big future there as well.
People think about Oklahoma as oil and gas, but we have biotech, we have unmanned aviation, right, et cetera, all kinds of different industries because of that 40-year focus of diversification that are now really kind of
and we are. If you look back, I mean, I'm not an economist, but my sense is that in the last couple of recessions that we've had, Oklahoma has not felt the brunt of that.
I agree as well. In fact, I tell people around the country, obviously the COVID situation was one that we all went through together and everyone had their, but I said, Oklahoma often is kind of the last to go in and the first to come out. Yeah. And last to go in can be great when we're talking about a recession or shutdowns, and so but our ability to come right back out again has been
speaks
really
to
good.
the diversity of our economy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
So when you're not at work, what do you like to do?
I'm raising 2 grandkids. My wife and I are raising 2 grandkids.
Well, that's a challenge for sure.
So my life is not my own, actually, after work. We do a lot of sports. We do a lot of school activities that they're in middle school and high school. And so that occupies a lot of our time. We're, as you said, we're great OSU fans,
Right.
and we have season tickets at basketball and football, and we like wrestling, and so we do all of that stuff. And
Some highs and lows there, right? Wrestling team is really doing it. Basketball team struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
Football team.
You know
is
what?
it
If
is.
you're an OSU fan, you just go.
I'm trying to find. I'm an OU fan, so I got to rib you a little bit without going too
and you know
crazy.
what? Go right ahead. It doesn't hurt anymore.
Right. Well, and they'll be separating soon.
That's right.
Yeah, they won't be on top of each other
Yeah,
the way
I hate
they
to
are.
see that.
Well, those things happen, right?
But I'm sure that it'll come back
yeah,
around.
for sure. I'm going to steal a little bit from the OVF podcast.
Okay.
I end our one-on-one interviews on that podcast by asking this question. I'm going to ask it here because I'm loving what your answer is going to be. What is your favorite piece of advice for an Oklahoma entrepreneur? We've mentioned a few times that people try to give you you got to go to the coast or you can't do that in Oklahoma. But when we're talking specifically about an Oklahoma entrepreneur, whether they're a high school kid, a college person in the Loves Cup, or someone who lives here or came here from out of state, and they come into the i2E office and they say, Rex, what do I need to know about getting my business going in Oklahoma? What's your favorite piece of advice for them?
Well, that's a great question. The answer is there's many answers to that question.
It's true. That's why I said I phrase it as your favorite, because there's 100 things you can say.
I think one of the biggest values we can do for these companies is to connect them.
Yes.
We can talk about capital. We can talk about, evaluating the technologies. We can talk about competitive environments, the size of the market, the likely competitive response in the marketplace, all those things. But they really need to get connected.
Mm-hmm.
They really need to get involved. There are so many resources out there and it's hard to do that. From our perspective, we can introduce them, but they have to get connected. And if they will do that, what they'll find is that in Oklahoma, there are a lot of people who want them to be successful.
Yes.
And will do whatever they can do to ensure that they become successful.
Which I think is actually our greatest strength when people try to compare us to East Coast, West Coast, even to Texas and Austin. I think our greatest strength, whether it's Oklahoma City or Tulsa, is our people and our willingness to connect and collaborate, even if there's nothing in it for us.
Exactly. I think that sums it up. Everyone that I see and I know, whoever it is in this ecosystem, they want to make their organization do well, but they get it that if they can help someone be successful, eventually that's going to come back to float their boat as well.
I love that because in my head I was thinking rising tide, and you
it is.
You nailed it on the head.
It's absolutely a rising tide.
Thank you so much. We could talk for an hour.
Yeah, but we have so many different. We never do them all justice.
But I'm going to let you off the hook. I had to twist Rex's arm to come on the podcast. He doesn't want to talk about himself. He's a humble guy, but you have so much information, so much experience, connections, and that advice you just gave was 100% spot on. So I'm super happy that me and your staff forced you to come on and have this conversation with me today. And I'm going to end it with that. So thank you so much, Rex, for being on the podcast.
Glad to be
here. You guys, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit a like, make sure and leave a comment. You even ask a question. And if you're interested in business in any way, whether you're a high school, college person, or just have an idea, the folks at i2E absolutely want to talk to you. Go to their website, find out how to connect with them, learn from them, utilize i2E as a resource. Whether you're a beginner or you've had $1 billion exit, you still need to be utilizing i2E and Rex and his team over there. And for me, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Make sure that you're following on social media, the Golden Group, the Strategic Growth Podcast. I appreciate you, Rex, being on today. And I'm looking forward to seeing who's our next guest in the next couple of weeks. So thank you guys for tuning in and listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Golden Group Strategic Growth Podcast. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Follow the Golden Group on social media. For more information, past episodes, or to contact us, please visit thegoldengroup.com.